Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I want to take a little detour today and talk about something that I think is incredibly fascinating, and that is fasting. I went through an interview. I listened to it, and then I had to read through it because it's so interesting. I think fasting is one of the most interesting concepts that I've ever come across because it ties so many loose ends together in health and wellness as far as weight loss and immune function and regeneration, how to stay younger longer, basically. It ties so many things together, and anytime I hear a doctor or a researcher or somebody talking about fasting, I'm always intrigued because if you think of the big picture, they're not selling you really on anything. They have nothing to sell you unless it's maybe a book or something, but there's so much free information out there and so many people are talking about this and offering up the insight freely. There's no weight loss program, there's no exercise equipment, there's no shake, there's no programming to sign up for, et cetera, et cetera. This is genuinely just something that would simplify your life. It's not adding to anything that complicates as far as something else you need to add. It's actually something to simplify that's very powerful. So one of the things that I noticed in this interview, there's actually about 3 or 4 things that I'm going to highlight quickly, and then I'm going to give you a link and encourage you to take a look at it, is that when you look at fasting and weight loss, the issue is not calorie driven, it's hormonal driven. So a quick example, a Tour de France rider, somebody that's a cyclist in the Tour de France, well documented, they eat over 10,000 calories per day, but over a 3-week period, they lose weight. Now that's an extreme, but the idea is that because of the way they've trained their bodies and the way that the hormones are working as far as human growth hormone and testosterone and insulin and all these things, they manage those 10,000 calories very, very differently. Of course, they burn them, but they manage them very differently than, I know some people who are overweight and they eat very little each day, or people that have done diets and they may or may not lose weight. It has to do with hormones, and those hormones it's very complicated, but you don't need to understand everything to get the benefit, is one of the other points that you'll see. Eat very little, but their bodies hoard those calories and store them so that they ended up gaining weight or not losing weight. The other interesting thing is that the idea of starving versus fasting. So some people say, oh, well, you're going to starve, or some nonsense like that. The interviewee makes a really good distinction between starvation and fasting, in that starvation, number one, you have no control over. Number two, you don't know when the period is going to end. And number three, it wasn't your choice. Fasting, on the other hand, it is your choice. You do have complete control over it. It is for a specific purpose that generally is beneficial. And number three, you can quit anytime you like and do it under any parameters. So it's not starvation. The other idea is, well, if I restrict calories or if I fast, then my body will, like the one type of person that I mentioned, will start to hoard calories. And to that effect, I would say that if you ride the blood sugar roller coaster, that's not a fast. That's just riding the blood sugar roller coaster. A fast is the point where, much like the Atkins diet, where you would just not have any sugar, or you hear about ketosis, essentially you're going to get to the point where your body has exhausted its sugar and glycogen stores and it will be forced to break down fats. If you get to that point, usually 3 or 4 days for most people, then you will start to reset the hormones, the insulin, the way that you sleep, the way that you heal, repair. Really, really interesting. I've known I remember years ago reading some stuff about restricted calorie diets, and how animals that have restricted calorie diets have a higher lean body muscle mass. They have decreased rates of cancer, degenerative disease. They generally live longer. Their young that they have are healthier. I think fasting ties a lot of different things together, and it really simplifies. And that's my point with some of these videos. I really want to simplify some things. So I would encourage you to take a look at fasting, and I'll leave you with one last thing, and that is, most of what I've looked at regarding fasting or restricted calorie diets has been on a physical plane, but I'm fascinated and have a new appreciation for the mental or even the spiritual component of fasting. That I have some friends that have done that. I personally fasted a few times in a couple different ways, but I'm really intrigued with the idea of better mental clarity, and just the examples in Scripture of key figures in the Bible that have fasted prior to either big decisions or prior to starting a different phase of life, whether it be in ministry or leadership or something. That's always stuck with me, and so I I hope to explore that further going forward. But anyway, if you haven't already, take a look at the link. Check out the interview. There's a lot of good stuff in there. It's not very long. It's packed with interesting things, and I think it's something that would be very helpful for you on your journey to health. Thanks. Josie?